The Monster. Chris and Jess were a happily married couple. They have loved each other for years, college sweethearts. They have gone places and loved every minute of their time spent together. After being together for so long, they became inseparable. So when Chris got a job in the city as a doctor in the A&E department, Jess knew it was time to say goodbye to her role at the sheriff's office as an officer in the country suburbs and join the police force in the city. They both were excited to start a new chapter in their lives. Chris got the removal van all filled up, and they both headed towards the city, singing along their favorite songs. They started to decorate the new place with all their love and favorite paintings. For the first week, all they did was explore the city, ate at the best restaurants, and watch classic black and white films on their TV until late at night. Jess started her detective role in the world-renowned police department of the city, and Chris was working nights in the A&E department. Weeks turned into months, and both settled into their new lives. They were hardly spending any time together due to the long working hours, but did whenever they could. One cold night, Jess was fast asleep as she got a call from her department to come down to a crime scene. It was urgent. Jess jumped up from her bed, got changed, got a badge, her gun, and rushed out the door into her car and sped off into the night. When she got to the crime scene, it was a horrific murder of a man. He had multiple stab wounds, but the strangest part of it all was he had words engraved on his forehead with a sharp object. They were, "I've been bad." This was a shock to everyone at the scene, as they never witnessed such rage and humiliation before to any victim. The crime scene was analyzed and closed off until all the necessary work was completed. Jess and her colleagues were all puzzled. Who could do such a thing? A few weeks go by with no leads, and all the suspects were checked and cleared. Then one night, Jess was working the night shift when she got another call. Another murder has taken place. She did what she did best, was to rush to the crime scene. When she got there, she was met with another horrific scene, multiple stab wounds, and the words engraved on the victim's forehead, "I've been bad." This time, the victim's wife was present, crying uncontrollably and unable to speak. When she gathered her words, she said that she was working nights, and when she got home, her husband was found dead on the kitchen floor. This time, police found the murder weapon, a long, rough, sharp knife. They do what they do every time: analyze the scene and send the knife for further testings. Jess and the department are getting more and more confused as to who could be doing this, and more importantly, why. Now, they have a serial killer on the loose. Unluckily, before the police could do anything, the killer strikes again the very next night. Same markings, similar stab wounds to another man. And this time, police got the very first lucky break. A CCTV footage but it only captured the back of the killer. A bold man running away from the scene. Nothing much, but they still had something. Jess got home that night, and Chris was off work. She told him about the CCTV footage, and he joked around telling her it was him. She told him to shut up and never to make fun of the victims again. Just went into the office next morning, and she had set up a task force, laid all the details of the victims on the wall in front of her, staring at it for hours. And then it finally hit her. All the victims have one thing in common. They have all been charged with domestic violence. Jess pulls up the records of men who have been charged with domestic violence in the recent years in the city and set up police units outside their houses with armored cars and plain-clothes police officers. Nights go by and nothing happens, but then one night, a few weeks later, a bold man is seen running into the watched homes. Officers throw their coffee out, get out the car. They draw their guns out, running towards the house. The suspect has blocked the door with something heavy they can't get in. They push, and it finally opens. They rush in and see a man lying on the floor, bleeding. They call for backup. They see a man running out the back door. They see him running in the very next house. The very next house. He's trapped. Officers guard the back and the front of that next door house, and backup arrives. Helicopters, sirens, police cars all around the house. And they use the loudspeaker to inform the man inside the house that he has been now surrounded. After some time, they hear very loud gunshots. And the SWAT team, who have been waiting outside, finally bursts in, throwing in everything they could to distract and shock the suspect. They go in and see the suspect on the floor. The two police officers who chased him confirmed that it was him. He's dead, with 2 gunshot wounds to his chest. In a distance, they see a lady on the kitchen floor with a gun who has killed him. They get closer. It's Jess, sitting on the kitchen floor, and she's shaken up. They get to her as quickly as they can, and she yells out a loud, deafening scream. She has just killed the suspect, and the suspect was Chris, her own loving husband. She's devastated beyond imagination. Her life has been completely shattered in a second. She said that she was in the kitchen when Chris suddenly ran in with a knife towards her, and she had her lights dimmed. All she saw was a dark figure running towards her with a knife. Jess is taken into the ambulance and to the hospital. Her family is called to take care of her. She cries and cries, screaming at times even. The police then finds tons and tons of evidence linking Chris to all the 3 murders. His DNA matches all the scenes, and they find out that his father used to be violent towards his mother, and he had a rage towards men who hit their wives. But his new job in the city as an A&E doctor was the main factor that triggered everything off, as when he used to see women beaten up coming into the A&E department. As Jess describes this to the police in the hospital. Just describes that he used to come home after working long hours in the A&E, and how angry he felt and how full of rage he was for these men who beat their wives up. A few weeks go by. Chris's funeral is held. Chris's family comforts Jess as she's the only person, only memory they have left of Chris. Jess cannot bear to stay in the same house anymore. She moves in with her parents back to the country suburbs. One evening, Jess is sitting all alone at her table in her parents' house. She's sitting in a dressing table and combing her hair and thinking about Chris. She starts crying and crying and rests her head on the dressing table. She sobs, but then tells herself to get up. When she gets up and looks in the mirror, she sees a bald figure, completely bald, with no hair. Jess is looking at herself. She was a serial killer all along. She has killed a few to kill one. She planned everything even before she moved into the city. She did all her homework before she even moved into the city. She had a list of all the domestic violence suspects and purposely got her place in the city right next to the last victim, as she planned to kill him. And she planted all the crime scenes with Chris's DNA. She planned it all. From shaving her head to wearing a wig and appearing in the CCTV with her back only and running away from the crime scene. She planned it all, from running away from the last crime scene to her house, making sure she was wearing the same clothes as Chris that night, and getting into the house, waking Chris up by shouting so he could come running down, shooting at him and planting a knife in his hand, getting rid of her clothes. She planned this all for a very, very long time. Why did she do this all? Because they were not a happily married couple. Chris would see his father beat his mom every chance he could, and he would do the same to Jess. Marks on Jess's body where nobody could see but Jess. He was a monster, but little did he know, he had created a bigger one, who was Jess.